Commander Vrekthar stared at the viewing screen with mild curiosity. In all his years of military service, he had seen this moment play out hundreds of times. A small ship, an unknown species, the inevitable surrender. It was almost boring now. The vessel floating before his fleet was tiny compared to his warships. It called itself the Pathfinder, and it seemed to be some kind of exploration craft. The beings inside claimed they were human, from a planet called Earth. Vrekthar had never heard of them before. That was not surprising. The galaxy was vast and new species were discovered all the time. What was surprising was their technology. It was primitive. Very primitive. Their ship moved using chemical rockets. Chemical rockets! The Xinthian collective had abandoned such crude methods thousands of years ago. Their weapons were even worse. Metal projectiles propelled by small explosions. No energy shields. No plasma cannons. Nothing that would pose even the smallest threat to his fleet. Vrekthar leaned back in his command chair. His scales shifted slightly as he considered his options. The collective had rules about first contact. Give them a choice. Integration or destruction. Most species chose integration. The smart ones did anyway. Open a channel, he ordered. His communications officer nodded and pressed several buttons on her console. A moment later, the face of a human appeared on the screen. She was female if Vrekthar understood human biology correctly. Her name was Kate Bishop, and she held the rank of captain. She had short dark hair and calm eyes. Too calm, perhaps. Most species showed fear when they first encountered the collective. This human showed none. Captain Bishop, Vrekthar began using the standard greeting. I am Commander Vrekthar of the Xinthian Collective. You have entered space claimed by the collective. Under our laws, you have two choices. You may join the collective peacefully and accept our rule, or you may refuse and be destroyed. You have one rotation of your home planet to decide. He expected fear, or anger, or desperate pleading. Instead, Kate Bishop smiled slightly. It was not a happy smile. Commander Vrekthar, she said. Her voice was steady and clear. Humanity does not accept ultimatums. We have no interest in joining your collective. We also have no interest in conflict. We suggest you leave this space and allow us to continue our peaceful exploration. Vrekthar felt his scales ripple with amusement. This was unexpected. Refreshing, even. Most primitives understood their position quickly. This human seemed to think she had some kind of leverage. Captain Bishop, he said, trying to keep the amusement out of his voice. Perhaps you do not understand your situation. My fleet consists of 30 warships. Each one could destroy your vessel with a single shot. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your shields, if you even have shields, cannot stop us. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of reality. Kate Bishop's expression did not change. I understand the situation perfectly, Commander. You have made a threat. I have declined your offer. Now I will give you some reality. If you attack this ship, you will regret it. Not today. Not tomorrow. But you will regret it. Vrekthar's amusement faded. This human was either very brave or very foolish. Probably foolish. He decided to give her a demonstration. Perhaps seeing his power would change her mind. Tactical officer, he said. Disable their engines. Minimum power. I want them alive. The tactical officer nodded. A moment later, a thin beam of energy shot from one of the Xinthian ships. It struck the Pathfinder's engine section. The human ship shuddered. Lights flickered. On the screen, Kate Bishop grabbed her armrests as her ship shook. When the shaking stopped, she looked back at the screen. Her face was harder now. Colder, but still calm. You have one rotation of your planet. Vrekthar repeated. Choose wisely, Captain Bishop. Your ship is damaged. Your engines are offline. You cannot run. You cannot fight. You can only surrender. Make the smart choice. Kate Bishop leaned forward in her chair. Her eyes locked onto Vrekthar's. Commander, you just made a terrible mistake. You attacked a human vessel without provocation. You disabled our ship and threatened our lives. Earth will hear about this, and when Earth hears about this, you will understand what a mistake looks like. Vrekthar almost laughed. Earth, one primitive planet. What could they possibly do? But he kept his composure. One rotation, Captain. I will return for your answer. He signaled his communications officer to close the channel. The screen went dark. His second officer, a young female named Krishna, turned to him. Commander, should we maintain position? No, Vrekthar said. We will return to our patrol route. They cannot go anywhere. Their engines are destroyed. In one rotation, we will return and accept their surrender. Then we will learn the location of this Earth and add another world to the collective. Krishna hesitated. Commander, that human seemed very confident. Should we be concerned? Rekthar waved a clawed hand dismissively. She is primitive. They always posture and threaten when they first meet us. It is pride. Once pride fades, reality sets in. They will surrender. They always do. But as his fleet turned away from the disabled human ship, Rekthar found himself thinking about Kate Bishop's eyes. There had been no fear there. No doubt, only certainty. It was unusual. Most species showed fear when they realized how outmatched they were. He pushed the thought away. It did not matter. Fear or no fear, the outcome would be the same. The humans would join the collective or die. Those were the only options. Those were always the only options. 24 hours later, Rekthar returned to the coordinates where he had left the Pathfinder. The human ship was still there, floating dead in space. Its engines were dark. Its weapons were offline. Everything was as he had left it. Open a channel, he ordered. The screen flickered to life. Kate Bishop appeared again. She looked tired. Her uniform was rumpled, but her eyes were still calm. Still certain. Captain Bishop, Rekthar said. One rotation has passed. What is your decision?
Kate Bishop took a deep breath.
Commander Rekthar, my decision is the same as it was yesterday. Humanity will not surrender. We will not join your collective. We will not submit to your rule. Rekthar felt a flash of annoyance. This was taking longer than necessary. Captain, be reasonable. Your ship is disabled. You have no weapons, no engines, no hope of escape. Why choose death when you could choose life? Because some things are worth dying for, Kate said simply. Freedom is one of those things. You gave us one rotation to think. We used that time to send a message to Earth. They know what happened here. They know you attacked us. They know you threatened us. And they are coming. Rekthar felt his scales ripple with genuine surprise. A message? They had sent a message? He looked at his tactical officer. Did they transmit anything? The tactical officer checked his console. Yes, Commander. Shortly after we left, they sent a tight beam transmission toward their home system. We detected it but did not think it was important. Their communication technology is primitive. The message will take weeks to reach its destination. Rekthar turned back to the screen. Weeks, Captain Bishop. Your message will take weeks to arrive. By then, you will be long dead. This changes nothing. Kate Bishop smiled again. That same cold smile. Commander, you are making assumptions based on incomplete information. That is a mistake. You assume we are alone out here. You assume Earth is weeks away. You assume you have time. All of those assumptions are wrong. Before Rekthar could respond, his tactical officer shouted, Commander, multiple contacts. They just appeared on our sensors. 20 vessels, no 30, no 50. They are surrounding us. Rekthar spun toward his tactical display. His eyes widened. Dozens of ships had appeared around his fleet. They were human ships, bigger than the Pathfinder, armed. Their weapons were powered up and aimed directly at his vessels. How? He breathed. How did they get here so fast? Kate Bishop's voice came from the screen. We have been out here for months, Commander, exploring, building, preparing. The Pathfinder was not alone. It was never alone. We just wanted to see what you would do when you found us. Now we know. One of the human ships opened a communication channel. A different human appeared on the screen next to Kate Bishop. He was male, older, with gray hair and hard eyes. His uniform was more formal than Kate's, more official. Commander Rekthar, the man said. I am Admiral Peter Clark of the Earth Defense Fleet. You attacked one of our ships. You threatened our people. You gave us an ultimatum. Now I will give you one. Leave this space immediately. Return to your collective. Tell them that humanity is not interested in joining them. Tell them that if they come to our space again, they will be destroyed. You have 60 seconds to begin moving. If you are still here after 60 seconds, we will open fire. This is your only warning. Rekthar looked at his tactical display. His 30 ships were surrounded by over 60 human vessels. The odds were not in his favor. But they were primitives. Surely their weapons could not hurt his advanced ships. Surely their shields could not stop his weapons. But Kate Bishop's words echoed in his mind. Assumptions based on incomplete information. That is a mistake, he looked at Krishna. She was staring at the tactical display with wide eyes. Commander, she whispered. What do we do? Rekthar considered his options. He could fight. He could test these humans and see if their threats were real. But something in Admiral? 2 weeks had passed since the encounter with the human exploration ship. Commander Vrekthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. Behind him, 300 Xinthian warships moved in perfect formation. It was the largest fleet he had ever commanded. It was also, he was certain, complete overkill for this mission. The humans had surprised him with their numbers during that first meeting. But numbers alone did not win wars. Technology won wars. Training won wars. Experience won wars. And the Xinthian collective had all three advantages. Approaching human solar system, his navigator announced, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in 30 seconds. Vrekthar straightened in his command chair. This was it. The moment of truth. In minutes, the humans would see his fleet and understand how foolish their resistance had been. They would surrender. They always surrendered when they saw the full might of the collective. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the human solar system. Immediately, every sensor on the bridge began screaming warnings. Contact! The tactical officer shouted. Multiple contacts. Hundreds of contacts. They are everywhere? Vrekthar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The entire solar system was lit up with targets, ships, hundreds of human ships, weapon platforms orbiting every planet and moon. The asteroid belt had been turned into a minefield. Every approach to the inner system was covered by overlapping fields of fire. How? Kreshna whispered beside him. How did they build all this in 2 weeks? Vrekthar did not have an answer. This level of military buildup should have taken years, decades even, but somehow the humans had done it in days. A communication channel opened. A human face appeared on the screen. Male, young, dark hair and nervous eyes. He wore a military uniform with the rank insignia of a lieutenant. Xinthian fleet, the human said. His voice was steady despite the nervousness in his eyes. This is Lieutenant Danny Hayes of the Earth Defense Forces. You are not welcome in this system. Turn around and leave immediately. Vrekthar felt his scales ripple with annoyance. Another ultimatum. These humans seemed fond of ultimatums. Lieutenant Hayes, I am Commander Vrekthar of the Xinthian Collective. 2 weeks ago, I gave your people a choice. Join us or be destroyed. You chose destruction. I am here to deliver it. The human's expression hardened. Then you have chosen war. On your head be it. The channel closed, Vrekthar turned to his tactical officer. All ships battle formation. Advance to the inner system. Destroy any resistance. The fleet began moving forward. As they advanced, another communication channel opened. This time a different human appeared, older, male. Gray hair and cold eyes. Captain's insignia, Xinthian commander, the human said. This is Captain Ryan Grant of the destroyer Valiant. You have been warned. You have been given a chance to leave. You have chosen to ignore both warnings. This is your last opportunity. Turn back now, or we will be forced to defend our home. Vrekthar almost laughed. Defend their home with what? Primitive chemical rockets and metal bullets? Captain Grant, your threats are meaningless. Our shields can stop any weapon you possess. Our weapons can pierce any defense you can create. This battle is already over. Surrender now and save your people unnecessary suffering. Captain Grant's expression did not change. Commander, you are making the same mistake you made 2 weeks ago. You are assuming. You assume our weapons are primitive. You assume your shields are superior. You assume you understand what you are facing. All of those assumptions are wrong. For the last time, turn back. No, Vrekthar said flatly. Advance, the channel closed. Vrekthar watched his tactical display as his fleet moved deeper into the human system. The human ships were falling back, retreating toward the inner planets. Good. They understood their position. Perhaps they would surrender before any real fighting began. Then the humans opened fire. It was not like any battle Vrekthar had ever seen. The human weapons were not primitive chemical rockets. They were railguns, massive electromagnetic accelerators that fired solid metal slugs at incredible speeds. The projectiles moved so fast that his sensors barely detected them before they hit. The first salvo struck 3 of his ships. The shields held for less than a second. The metal slugs punched through the energy barriers like they were not even there. They tore through armor plating. They ripped through internal systems. One ship exploded immediately. The other 2 began venting atmosphere and debris. Shields are ineffective, his tactical officer shouted. The kinetic energy is too high. Our shields are designed to stop energy weapons, not solid projectiles at these velocities. Vrekthar gripped his armrests. Return fire. All ships, return fire. His fleet opened fire with plasma cannons and particle beams. The weapons were powerful, devastating. They could melt through most armor in seconds. But when they struck the human ships, something strange happened. The beams hit. The plasma connected. But the human ships did not explode. They did not even slow down. Their armor glowed red hot where the weapons struck, but it held. It held. How are they absorbing that much energy? Krishna asked, staring at the display in shock. Ablative armor, the tactical officer said, reading his sensors. Multiple layers. Ceramic composites. Heat sinks. They are designed specifically to counter energy weapons. Commander, they built their ships to fight us. They knew what weapons we would use, and they prepared for them. Another salvo of railgun rounds struck his fleet. 5 more ships were hit. 3 were destroyed outright. 2 were disabled and began drifting. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Frekthar ordered. His fleet began to scatter, breaking formation to avoid the devastating railgun fire. But the humans were not done. Missiles began launching from the human ships. Thousands of missiles. They swarmed toward the Xinthian fleet like angry insects. Point defense systems opened fire, destroying hundreds of them. But there were too many. The missiles overwhelmed the defenses and began striking home. These were not simple explosive warheads. They were smart missiles. Each one had its own guidance system. Each one tracked its target independently. When point defense destroyed one missile, 3 more took its place. They adapted. They learned. They found weaknesses in the Xinthian defenses and exploited them ruthlessly. Aboard the destroyer Valiant, Lieutenant Danny Hayes watched the battle unfold on his tactical screen. His hands were shaking slightly. This was his first real combat. He had trained for years, but training was different from reality. Reality was louder, more chaotic, more terrifying. "Steady, Lieutenant," Captain Ryan Grant said beside him. The captain's voice was calm, almost casual, like he did this every day. "Keep tracking their formation. I want firing solutions on their command ships." "Yes, sir," Danny said, forcing his voice to stay level. He watched as the alien fleet scattered under the railgun barrage. They were fast, maneuverable, but they were also predictable. Every time a human ship fired, the aliens moved in a specific pattern. It was textbook defensive maneuvering, exactly what military doctrine would teach, and that was their mistake. Human military doctrine had been written based on thousands of years of warfare, wars between humans, wars where both sides knew the same tactics. The aliens were using similar tactics, probably developed the same way, but humans had seen these patterns before. They knew how to counter them. "Fire solution ready, sir," Danny reported. "Their flagship is the large vessel in the center of their formation. If we hit it, their command structure will be disrupted." Captain Grant nodded. "Railgun batteries target the flagship. Fire on my mark." He paused, watching the tactical display, waiting for the right moment. "Mark, the Valiant's railguns fired." 3 massive slugs of hardened metal launched at impossible speeds. They crossed the distance to the alien flagship in seconds. 2 were intercepted by point defense. The 3rd struck the flagship's engine section. The alien ship shuddered. Explosions rippled along its hull, but it did not die. Its armor held just barely. The ship began to fall back, trailing debris and atmosphere. "Good hit," Captain Grant said, "but they are tougher than expected. All ships concentrate fire. Bring that flagship down." Aboard Vrekthar's flagship, alarms were screaming. The ship was dying around him. Half his systems were offline. His engines were damaged. Life support was failing in 3 decks. "Commander, we must retreat," Krishna shouted over the noise. "We cannot win this battle." Vrekthar looked at his tactical display. In less than an hour, he had lost over 30 ships. More were damaged. The humans had lost none. Not a single one. They moved with perfect coordination. Their weapons struck with impossible accuracy, and most terrifying of all, they showed no hesitation, no fear. They fought like machines, cold, efficient, deadly. But what frightened Rekthar most was the human pilots themselves. He watched on his sensors as a damaged human ship deliberately rammed one of his cruisers. The human ship was breaking apart, barely holding together, but the pilot aimed it like a missile and crashed into the Xinthian vessel at full speed. Both ships exploded. No species did that. No sane species sacrificed themselves so casually. But the humans did. They did it without hesitation, without doubt, as if dying for their cause was not just acceptable but expected. "All ships," Rekthar said quietly. "Retreat. Maximum speed. Jump to, The Zynthian High Command met in emergency session 3 days after the defeat at Earth. Commander Vrekthar stood before them, his scales dull with exhaustion and shame. He had returned with less than 70 ships from a fleet of 300. It was the worst military disaster in collective history. High Commander Zenthrak, leader of the collective's military forces, stared at him with cold eyes. "Explain how a primitive species destroyed 230 of our warships." Vrekthar chose his words carefully. "High Commander, the humans are not primitive. Their technology is different from ours, but it is not inferior. They use kinetic weapons that bypass our shields. They use ablative armor that absorbs our energy weapons, and they fight with a level of coordination and determination I have never witnessed." "Excuses," another council member hissed. "You had superior numbers, superior ships. You should have crushed them easily." "They knew we were coming," Vrekthar said. "They had weeks to prepare their defenses. They studied our tactics and built weapons specifically designed to counter our advantages. This was not a fair fight. They ambushed us." Zenthrak leaned forward. "And what is your recommendation, Commander?" Vrekthar took a deep breath. "Negotiate. Open diplomatic channels. These humans are dangerous, but they did not pursue us when we retreated. They allowed us to leave. That suggests they are not interested in conquest. Only defense. If we offer peace, they might accept it." The council chamber erupted in angry voices. "Negotiate? With primitives? Impossible, unthinkable." The collective did not negotiate with species they intended to conquer. Zenthrak raised a clawed hand for silence. When the chamber quieted, he spoke. "Commander Vrekthar, your suggestion is noted and rejected. The collective does not negotiate from a position of weakness. Word of this defeat is already spreading. If we do not respond with overwhelming force, every subject species in our empire will see it as a sign of weakness. Rebellions will begin. Our entire civilization could collapse." "But High Commander," Vrekthar began. "Enough," Zenthrak cut him off. "We will assemble the Grand Armada, every available ship, 2,000 vessels. We will reduce Earth to ash and make an example that the entire galaxy will remember. No species defies the collective and survives." Vrekthar felt his scales go cold. 2,000 ships, the largest fleet ever assembled. It would take months to gather them all. Months for the humans to prepare even more defenses. Months for them to plan countermeasures. He wanted to speak, to warn them that they were making a mistake. But he could see in their eyes that they would not listen. Pride had clouded their judgment. Fear of appearing weak had overridden their common sense. The humans had been right. The collective could not afford to look weak, and that inability would destroy them. Meanwhile, on Earth, a different meeting was taking place. President Helen Carter sat at the head of the Security Council, listening to reports from the military command. The battle had been a victory, but everyone in the room knew it was only the beginning. "Intelligence suggests the aliens are gathering a much larger fleet," Admiral Peter Clark said. "Possibly 2,000 ships or more. They will not make the same mistakes twice. They will come prepared for our kinetic weapons and our tactics." President Carter nodded slowly. She was a thin woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had not wanted war. None of them had. But war had come anyway, and now they had to deal with it. "What are our options, Admiral?" "We can fortify our defenses further," Clark said. "Build more ships, more weapon platforms, turn the entire solar system into a fortress. If they attack again, we can defeat them again." "But," Carter prompted. She could hear the hesitation in his voice. "But eventually they will overwhelm us through sheer numbers," Clark admitted. "They control dozens of star systems. They can build ships faster than we can destroy them. If we only defend, we will lose. It is just a matter of time." "So what is the alternative?" another council member asked. Clark looked around the table. "We take the fight to them. We do not wait for them to attack us. We strike their military infrastructure, shipyards, supply depots, command centers. We make it impossible for them to sustain their war effort. We force them to defend instead of attack." The room went quiet. What Clark was suggesting was not just defense. It was offense. It was invasion. It was war on a scale humanity had never attempted before. President Carter closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were hard. "If we do this, there is no going back. We will be committing ourselves to total war. The cost in lives will be enormous." "The cost of not doing it will be worse," Clark said quietly. "Madam President, they attacked us. They came to our home and tried to destroy us. If we do not respond with everything we have, they will keep coming, and eventually they will win." Carter looked at each council member in turn. She saw fear in their eyes, but she also saw determination. They understood what was at stake: humanity's survival, their children's future, everything they had built over thousands of years. "Very well," she said. "Authorize Operation Human Answer. We will show this collective what happens when they threaten humanity's home." Over the next 3 weeks, humanity mobilized for war. Not just defense, but total war. Ships were built. Weapons were stockpiled. Plans were drawn. And 3 separate strike forces were assembled, each with a specific mission. Commander Jake Sullivan stood in the briefing room of the stealth ship Shadow, looking at his team. 20 operators, the best of the best. Special forces, intelligence operatives, combat engineers, each one a specialist, each one a weapon. "Our mission is simple," Jake said. "We go deep into collective space. We hit their infrastructure, shipyards, command centers, supply lines. We cause chaos. We make them react. And while they are distracted, our main fleet will position itself for the knockout blow." One of his team members raised a hand. "Commander, what about civilian casualties? These targets will have non-combatants around them." Jake's expression was grim. "We avoid civilian casualties whenever possible. Our targets are military only. We are not terrorists. We are soldiers. But understand this: if we fail, Earth falls. If Earth falls, every human dies. So we will do whatever is necessary to complete the mission." The team nodded. They understood. This was not about glory or revenge. This was about survival. Pure and simple. Far away, on a Xinthian colony world, a civilian named Soralin was listening to the news broadcasts with growing fear. Reports were coming in from military outposts across the collective. Human ships were appearing without warning. They would attack a shipyard, destroy it completely, and vanish before reinforcements could arrive. Then they would appear somewhere else, hundreds of light years away, and do it again. The humans were not targeting civilians. They were careful about that. But military personnel were being killed. Infrastructure was being destroyed, and the collective's military was helpless to stop it. Soralin worked as a teacher. She had no military training, no combat experience. She just wanted to live her life in peace. But now her government had started a war with a species that seemed unstoppable. She turned off the news and looked at her students. They were young, innocent. They did not understand what was happening. They did not know that their entire civilization might be about to collapse because some old males in the high command had been too proud to make peace. One of her students raised a small claw. "Teacher Soralin, are the humans going to attack our world?" Soralin wanted to lie, to tell them they were safe. But she could not. "I do not know," she said honestly. "The humans are only attacking military targets. As long as we stay away from military installations, we should be safe." "But why are they attacking us?" another student asked. "What did we do to them?" How could she explain? How could she tell them that their government had attacked the humans first? That the collective had given the humans no choice but to fight back? She chose her words carefully. "Sometimes adults make mistakes. Our government made a mistake. Now we are all paying for it." Back in collective space, Commander Vrekthar was experiencing his own nightmare. He had been given command of defensive forces protecting the staging areas for the Grand Armada. It was supposed to be a safe assignment. The humans were light years away. They could not possibly reach this far into collective territory. Then human ships appeared and destroyed 3 of his supply depots in a single night. He tried to strengthen his defenses. More patrols, more sensors, more ships guarding the critical installations. It did not matter. The humans struck again. And again. They seemed to know exactly where his weak points were. They attacked with surgical precision, destroyed their targets, and vanished before he could respond. He sent urgent messages to the High Command, begging them to reconsider their strategy. He warned them that the humans were dismantling their ability to wage war. He pleaded for permission to negotiate. His messages were ignored. The High Command was focused entirely on the Grand Armada. 2,000 ships. The largest fleet ever assembled. They were convinced that once this fleet launched, the war would be over. Earth would be destroyed. The humans would be crushed. Order would be restored. Vrekthar knew they were wrong. He had fought the humans. He had seen what they could do, and he was beginning to understand something that terrified him. The emergency council meeting lasted 6 minutes. That was how long it took for the Zynthian High Command to realize they had lost the war. High Commander Zenthorak stared at the tactical display showing human warships in orbit around the homeworld. His scales had gone pale. Around him, the other council members sat in stunned silence. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. They all understood what had happened. The Grand Armada, their greatest weapon, was now their greatest liability. It was days away from Earth. But the homeworld was under threat right now. They had no choice but to recall it. And everyone in the room knew what would happen when they did. "Send the order," Zenthorak said quietly. "Recall the Grand Armada. All ships are to return to the homeworld immediately." An aide scurried away to transmit the order. The council members looked at each other. Finally, one of them spoke. "This is a disaster. When word spreads that we recalled our fleet to protect the homeworld, every subject species will see it as weakness. Rebellions will start. Our empire will crumble." "Our empire is already crumbling," another council member said bitterly. "The humans have destroyed half our shipbuilding capacity. They have killed thousands of our military personnel. They have demonstrated that we cannot protect our own homeworld. What empire can survive that?" Zenthorak raised a clawed hand for silence. "Enough, we made our choices. Now we deal with the consequences. Send a message to the human admiral. Tell her we are recalling the Armada. Tell her we agree to negotiate." The Grand Armada received the recall order and immediately changed course. 2,000 warships turned away from Earth and began the long journey back to the homeworld. But the humans were not done with them. Human strike groups began appearing along the Armada's route. Small forces, fast ships. They did not engage directly. Instead, they hit supply convoys. They destroyed tanker ships carrying fuel. They ambushed medical vessels. They forced the Armada to deploy escorts for every support ship, which slowed their advance even more. It was a masterpiece of military strategy. The humans were not trying to destroy the Armada. They were bleeding it, weakening it, making sure that when it finally arrived at the homeworld, it would be exhausted, undersupplied, and demoralized. Meanwhile, in a Zynthian military research facility, analyst Threnkor was working late into the night. He had been tasked with studying human military doctrine, trying to understand how they had defeated the collective so thoroughly. What he found disturbed him deeply. The humans had provided some of their military manuals as part of the initial peace negotiations. They claimed it was a gesture of goodwill to help the collective understand why continuing the war would be futile. But as Threnkor read these documents, he realized they were actually a warning. Human military doctrine was unlike anything he had ever seen. Most species, including the Zynthians, saw war as a series of battles. Victory went to whoever won the most battles. But humans did not think that way. Humans saw war as a problem to be solved. Every enemy was studied carefully. Their strengths were noted and countered. Their weaknesses were exploited ruthlessly. Humans adapted constantly, changing their tactics based on what worked and what did not. They never repeated the same mistake twice. But what truly horrified Threnkor was the history. Humans had been fighting wars for their entire recorded history. Not against aliens, against each other. They had refined warfare to an art form over thousands of years of conflict. Every innovation in military technology, every tactical development, every strategic insight had been purchased with human blood. The collective had experience fighting primitive species who could barely defend themselves. But they had no experience fighting an enemy who was just as smart, just as determined, and far more experienced in the art of war. Threnkor wrote his report and sent it to the High Command. He doubted they would read it. They were too busy trying to salvage what remained of their empire, but at least it would be on record. Future historians would understand why the collective had failed so completely. Aboard the human destroyer Valiant, Captain Kate Bishop sat in her ready room, reviewing casualty reports. The ship had been part of the strike force harassing the Grand Armada's return journey. They had lost ships. Good people had died, and that weight sat heavy on her shoulders. A knock came at her door. "Enter," she said. Pilot Chris Palmer stepped inside. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, hands shaking slightly. Kate recognized the signs immediately. Combat stress. Maybe worse. "Sir, permission to speak freely?" Chris asked. "Always, Chris. Sit down." Kate gestured to the chair across from her desk. The pilot sat, but his body remained tense. Coiled like a spring. I can't sleep, Chris said quietly. Every time I close my eyes, I see that troop transport exploding. I killed 200 aliens in that attack. 200 beings who probably never wanted to fight us. They were just following orders. And I killed them all. Kate leaned back in her chair. She understood what he was feeling. She felt it too. The weight of command meant carrying the burden of every death she ordered. But she also understood something Chris was struggling with. Chris, those aliens you killed were soldiers. They were part of an invasion force coming to destroy Earth. If you had not stopped them, they would have killed millions of humans, including your family, including mine, including everyone we have ever known. I know that, Chris said. In my head, I know that. But it does not make it easier. We keep talking about how the aliens started this war, how they attacked us first, and that is true. But the beings I killed, they did not attack anyone. They were just following orders from their government. Kate stood and walked around her desk. She sat in the chair next to Chris, not across from him. Equal to equal. Friend to friend. You are right. Those aliens were not the ones who made the decision to attack us, but they were still part of the military machine that did. And in war, we do not get to choose who lives and who dies based on who is morally responsible. We make choices based on survival. That sounds like an excuse, Chris said bitterly. Maybe it is, Kate admitted. But it is also the truth. We did not choose this war. They came to our home with 300 warships and told us to surrender or die. What choice did we have? Submit to slavery? Wait for them to kill us? No, we fought back. And yes, people died. Good people. Bad people. Innocent people. That is what war is. It is tragedy and horror, but it is also necessary sometimes. Chris looked at her with haunted eyes. How do you deal with it? The guilt? I do not, Kate said honestly. I carry it every day. Every death I ordered weighs on me. But I also know that if I had not given those orders, more humans would have died. So I accept the burden. I acknowledge the guilt. And I keep moving forward because my people need me to. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. Chris, we are not monsters. We do not enjoy killing. We do not celebrate death. But we are also not helpless victims. When someone threatens what we love, we become what we need to become to protect it. That is not evil. That is not even wrong. It is just human. Chris sat quietly for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. I understand, sir. Thank you. You are a good pilot, Chris, a good man. Do not let the guilt destroy you. Acknowledge it. Learn from it. But do not let it stop you from doing your duty. Kate stood, dismissed. And get some sleep. That is an order. Chris stood and saluted. As he left, Kate returned to her desk and the casualty reports. So many names. So many lives. And the war was not even over yet. Commander Rekthar stood on a viewing platform overlooking the homeworld. Above him in orbit, the battle of the homeworld was reaching its conclusion. The Grand Armada had finally arrived, but they were too late, too weak, too demoralized. The human fleet had spent the last week systematically destroying every military installation in orbit, weapon platforms, shipyards, defense stations, supply depots. They had not attacked the planet itself. They had not targeted civilians, but they had completely dismantled the collective's ability to project military power. It was brutal efficiency, cold, calculated, merciless. The Grand Armada tried to engage the human fleet, but they were exhausted from their long journey. Their supplies were depleted. Their crews were on edge, and the humans had spent weeks preparing their defenses. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the Grand Armada had lost 300 ships. The humans had lost 20. It was not even close. Rekthar watched the flashes of light in the sky and felt nothing but emptiness. He had warned them. He had told them the humans were dangerous. He had begged them to negotiate. They had not listened, and now their empire was falling apart. A communication came through on the planetary broadcast network. The human admiral, Nicole Brooks. Her face appeared on every screen across the homeworld. Billions of Xinthians watched as she delivered her ultimatum. People of the Xinthian collective, she said. Her voice was calm but firm. Your government started a war with humanity. They attacked our ships. They threatened our home. They gave us no choice but to defend ourselves. We have done so. We have defeated your fleets. We have destroyed your military infrastructure. We have proven that we cannot be conquered. She paused, letting her words sink in. But we do not want to destroy you. We do not want to occupy your worlds. We do not want your resources or... 5 years had passed since the war ended. The galaxy had changed in ways nobody could have predicted. Commander Rekthar, now retired from military service, sat in his small home on a quiet colony world. His desk was covered with papers and data tablets. He was writing his memoirs. The publisher had told him it would be an important book, a historical document. Future generations would read it to understand what had happened during the human war. He read over the passage he had just written. It was the conclusion, the final words of his book, the message he wanted to leave for those who came after. I have been asked many times why humanity was so terrifying in combat. People expect me to say it was their weapons, or their tactics, or their numbers. But that is not the answer. Those things made them effective, yes, but not terrifying. What made humans terrifying was their capacity for controlled violence. Most species, including my own, are either peaceful or aggressive. We are one or the other. But humans are both. They can be gentle and compassionate. They can create beautiful art and profound philosophy. They can show incredible kindness to strangers. And then, the moment they perceive a threat, they can switch. Just like that. They become ruthlessly efficient killers. They compartmentalize their horror at what they do. They accomplish the mission. And then afterward, they deal with the psychological cost. But during the battle, they are cold, calculating, merciless. That is what terrified me. Not that they were violent, but that they could turn it on and off at will. That they could be your friend one moment and your executioner the next, depending on whether you were a threat or not. But perhaps most frightening of all is this. Humans have built entire civilizations around the idea that sometimes violence is necessary. They do not glorify it. They do not celebrate it, but they accept it as a tool, and they have spent thousands of years perfecting that tool. My final advice to future generations is simple. Never threaten humanity. Never attack their home. Never give them a reason to see you as an enemy, because if you do, you will discover what it means when the most dangerous species in the galaxy decides you need to be stopped. Rekthar saved the file and leaned back in his chair. It was done. His book was finished. In a few weeks it would be published. And then the galaxy would understand what he had learned the hard way. On Earth, Lieutenant Commander Danny Hayes stood at a podium in front of a memorial wall. The wall was covered with names. Thousands of names. Every human who had died in the war. Soldiers, pilots, engineers, medics. All of them had given their lives to protect their home. Danny was older now, more experienced. He had been promoted twice since the war ended. But he still remembered his first battle. The fear, the chaos, the weight of responsibility. Those memories would never leave him. He looked out at the crowd gathered for the memorial service. Families of the fallen veterans, government officials. Everyone had come to remember and honor those who had not come home. Danny began his speech. 5 years ago, we faced an enemy that wanted to destroy us. They came to our home with overwhelming force. They gave us an ultimatum, submit or die. We chose a third option. We chose to fight. The people whose names are on this wall made that choice possible. They stood between our families and annihilation. They gave everything so that we could be free. They did not do it for glory. They did not do it for recognition. They did it because someone had to. Because protecting what we love sometimes requires sacrifice. He paused, looking at the names on the wall. So many, too many. We won that war. We defeated an empire that had conquered dozens of star systems. We proved that humanity cannot be subjugated. But victory came at a terrible cost. Every name on this wall represents a life cut short. Dreams unfulfilled. Families broken. We won because we were willing to become what was necessary. But every person here carries scars from that choice. Physical scars. Emotional scars. We do not celebrate war. We honor those who fought it because someone had to. And we promise to remember what that cost us so that we never choose war lightly again. Danny stepped back from the podium. The crowd was silent. Some people were crying. Others stood with their heads bowed. Everyone was thinking about what had been lost and what had been saved. Far from Earth, on a passenger shuttle approaching the planet, Suralyn looked out the window with wonder and fear. She was part of a cultural exchange program, the first group of Xinthians to visit Earth since the war ended. She had volunteered for this program despite her fear. She needed to understand these humans. She needed to see if they were the monsters her government had made them out to be, or if they were something else entirely. The shuttle landed at a spaceport. As Suralin stepped out, she braced herself for hostility, for anger, for hatred. The humans had every reason to hate Xinthians. Her government had tried to destroy them. Instead, she was greeted by a human woman with a warm smile. "Welcome to Earth," the woman said. "My name is Karen Mitchell. I will be your guide during your stay." Suralin stared at her in confusion. "You are not angry. My people tried to conquer yours." Karen's smile faded slightly. "Your government tried to conquer us. Not you personally. And yes, many humans are still angry, still hurt. But most of us understand that you are not your government. You did not start that war any more than we did." Over the next week, Suralin toured Earth. She visited cities filled with art and music. She met scientists working on projects to benefit all species. She saw families in parks, children playing, couples walking hand in hand. Normal life. Peaceful life. It was nothing like what she had expected. Where were the warriors? Where was the military culture? Where was the violence? Karen took her to a military base for a scheduled visit. Suralin tensed as they approached. This was where she would see the truth. This was where the monsters lived. But inside the base, she found more normal people. Soldiers who laughed and joked with each other. Engineers working on equipment. Medics practicing their skills. They all looked so ordinary. One young Marine approached her. He had kind eyes and an easy smile. "Ma'am, I heard you were visiting today." I wanted to introduce myself. "My name is Tyler Green." Suralin looked at him nervously. "You fought in the war?" "Yes, ma'am. I was part of the defensive force during the first battle." He did not say it with pride. "Just as a simple fact, and you do not hate me, even though I am Xinthian." Tyler shook his head. "I do not hate you. I do not even hate the soldiers I fought against. They were doing their duty, same as I was. The war happened. We did what we had to do. But now it is over. Now we just want to live in peace." "But you could fight again," Suralin said. "If you had to." Tyler's expression grew serious. "Yes, if someone threatened my family, if someone attacked my home, I would fight again. Most of us never wanted to see combat. We joined to protect people, to serve something bigger than ourselves. The war happened and we did our jobs, but now we just want to live in peace." Suralin realized something in that moment. The most terrifying thing about humans was not their capacity for violence. It was that they could turn it on and off at will. Tyler was a kind person, a good person, but if threatened, he would become a weapon, just like that. And when the threat was gone, he would go back to being kind. That was true terror. Not a monster who knew only violence, but a person who could choose violence when necessary and then choose peace afterward. Back in space, Admiral Kate Bishop stood on the bridge of her new flagship. She had been promoted after the war and given command of Earth's first deep space exploration fleet. Not a war fleet, an exploration fleet, designed to make peaceful contact with new species and establish humanity as a diplomatic presence in the galaxy. Her crew was assembled in the main hangar bay. 200 officers and enlisted personnel, scientists, diplomats, engineers, all of them ready to represent humanity to the stars. Kate looked at them and felt pride. These were good people. They would do good work. They would show the galaxy that humanity was more than warriors. She began her address. 5 years ago, the galaxy learned what humanity can do in war. We proved that we cannot be conquered, that we will fight with everything we have to protect what we love. The galaxy respects us now. Some species fear us. Others admire us. But they all know not to threaten us. But that is only part of who we are. Today we begin showing the galaxy the rest. We will explore. We will learn. We will build friendships. We will prove that humans are more than weapons. We are artists, scientists, teachers, dreamers, and we have so much to offer the universe. Our mission is peace. But we are still armed. We are still ready, because the galaxy needs to understand both sides of humanity, that we prefer peace but will never hesitate to defend ourselves, that we can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy, depending on how you treat us. We did not ask to be warriors, but we will never apologize for defending ourselves. Now let's prove we are more than what we had to become. Let's show the galaxy what humanity can do when given a chance to build instead of destroy. The crew cheered. Kate felt hope for the first time in years. The war was behind them. The future stretched ahead, and humanity would make the most of it. In a small home on a frontier colony, a young alien child looked up at their parent with curious eyes. "Parent, I heard about the humans at school today. Are they dangerous?"